July 15, 1976, was the night 12-year-old Beverly Elaine Allen vanished during her short walk home from an Oakland County baseball game. Though hundreds of frantic neighbors searched the quiet, sweltering suburban streets all night, investigators found absolutely no trace of her sudden abductor. But this dark mystery actually began on. It was a sweltering summer evening in Oakland County, Michigan, July 15, 1976. The sun had just set, casting a golden glow over the quiet suburban streets. But for one family, the peaceful evening would soon turn into a nightmare. 12-year-old Beverly Elaine Allen had just finished a baseball game at the local park, and was walking the short distance home. She never made it. Her frantic parents reported her disappearance when she failed to return for dinner, setting off a desperate search that would leave a community on edge. As the night wore on, volunteers combed the streets, calling out Beverly's name, while police launched a formal investigation. The Allens' quiet neighborhood, once a symbol of suburban tranquility, was now a hub of anxiety and fear. The question on everyone's mind: what happened to Beverly Elaine Allen? The search would continue through the night, but as the hours ticked by, hope began to dwindle. And then, the unthinkable, a few miles away, a gruesome discovery would shake the very foundations of this close-knit community. A body, matching Beverly's description, had been found. But was it really her? The Oakland County child killer had claimed his first victim, or so it seemed. The probe would intensify, but one thing was certain: the lives of these families would never be the same. And as the darkness closed in, one haunting question lingered: who was next? As the sun sets on a chilly autumn evening in 1976, police in Oakland County, Michigan, are scrambling to respond to the disappearance of 12-year-old Beverly Elaine Allen. The investigation is led by the Oakland County Sheriff's Department, with assistance from local police agencies. Detectives fan out across the neighborhood, searching for any sign of the missing girl. They knock on doors, asking if anyone saw or heard anything suspicious on the day of her disappearance. But as the hours tick by, no concrete leads emerge. The police are stumped. The search for Beverly intensifies, with officers scouring the woods, creeks, and abandoned areas around her home in Farmington Hills. They bring in search dogs, hoping to pick up a scent, but so far, nothing. The police are baffled by the lack of evidence. No witnesses come forward, no suspicious characters are reported, and no signs of a struggle or foul play are found at the scene. It's as if Beverly vanished into thin air. The authorities are under pressure to solve the case quickly, but as the days turn into weeks, the trail grows cold. The police are left with more questions than answers. What happened to Beverly Elaine Allen? Was she a victim of a random abduction, or was she targeted specifically? And who is behind her disappearance? The investigation is just beginning, but one thing is clear: the clock is ticking, and the perpetrator may strike again. As the investigation into Beverly Allen's disappearance continued, a sense of unease settled over Oakland County. It wasn't long before the worst fears of the community were realized. Between March and July 1977, a string of children vanished, their bodies later found in woods and fields, eerily similar circumstances echoing through each case. 7-year-old Nancy Banaszak was the first, vanishing on March 15, 1977, while walking home from a friend's house. Her body was discovered 2 days later, just a few miles from where Beverly Allen's body was found. The cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation, a grim echo of the previous case. The disappearances continued, each as heartbreaking as the last. On May 16, 1977, 12-year-old Mary Flesser went missing while riding her bike. Her body, along with that of 11-year-old Mark O'Leary, who had been abducted while walking home from a friend's house, was discovered in a wooded area on May 18. Their deaths were attributed to ligature strangulation. The brutality and similarity of these crimes sent shockwaves through the community, fueling a growing panic. Parents kept a tight grip on their children, wondering if they would be next. As bodies continued to turn up, a haunting question hung in the air: was a serial killer on the loose, targeting Oakland County's children? The authorities worked tirelessly to find answers, scouring the woods, interviewing witnesses, and following up on tips. Yet, with each new discovery, the killer seemed to vanish further into the shadows. And as the summer of 1977 wore on, a sense of dread clung to the county, a feeling that the nightmare was far from over. The nightmare began with Beverly Elaine Allen, 12, but tragically, it wouldn't end with her. Over the next few months, 5 more children vanished, their lives brutally cut short. Brian Scott McClure, 11, was next, with Patricia Michelle Callum, 12, disappearing just a day later. The kidnapping seemed almost calculated, as if the perpetrator was toying with the police. Mary Flesser, 13, Kenneth Robert Bressler, 15, and John Paul Hawkinson, 11, joined the growing list of victims. Each child was taken from a different location, with no apparent connection, leaving detectives scrambling for leads. Brian Scott McClure's abduction was particularly haunting. His home was just a few miles from where Beverly Allen was last seen. The proximity sent a chill down the spines of investigators, hinting at a predator who knew the area all too well. Patricia Michelle Callum's disappearance from her backyard in a normally safe suburban neighborhood only intensified the fear. Then, Mary Flesser vanished while on her way home from a friend's house. Kenneth Robert Bressler was taken from his neighborhood in the dead of night. And John Paul Hawkinson, whose disappearance still haunts his family to this day. As the bodies began to surface, a grim pattern emerged. These were not just random acts of violence but calculated, heinous crimes. The question on everyone's mind: who was behind these unspeakable acts of evil? And then, just as it seemed the killer couldn't strike again, a disturbing twist emerged. The nightmare wasn't over yet. The question remains: what drove someone to commit such atrocities, and did they ever pay the price? As the body count rises, a sense of dread settles over the Oakland County community like a shroud, casting a dark and foreboding shadow over the lives of residents. The once peaceful neighborhoods, with their neatly manicured lawns and vibrant children's laughter, are now eerily silent, as if holding their collective breath in anticipation of the killer's next move. Police are faced with a grim reality: they may be hunting a serial killer, a monster who seems to be toying with them. The theory sends a chill down the spines of investigators, who know they're in uncharted territory, navigating a twisted game of cat and mouse with a ruthless predator. As they re-examine the crime scenes, the air is thick with tension, heavy with the scent of blooming flowers and freshly cut grass, but also tainted by the sweet, cloying smell of death. The flickering fluorescent lights overhead cast an eerie glow on the pavement, where the faint outlines of tire marks and scuffed shoes tell a story of lives cut short. Investigators scour the areas, searching for any thread of evidence that might link the murders: a discarded cigarette butt, a torn piece of fabric, a fleck of paint. But despite their best efforts, no concrete leads emerge. The silence is deafening, punctuated only by the distant hum of traffic and the muffled sobs of grieving families. It's 1976, and the country is still reeling from the tumultuous 1960s, when social and cultural upheaval seemed to unleash a wave of violence and lawlessness. The notion of a serial killer, once a rarity, is now a haunting reality, as the likes of Ted Bundy and John Wayne Gacy capture headlines. But the Oakland County child killer is different, preying on innocent children and leaving behind a trail of devastated families. As detectives pore over the case files, the scratch of pens on paper and the rustle of pages turned create a sense of urgency, a desperate attempt to crack the code. They look for any overlooked detail, a misplaced decimal point, a misremembered alibi, anything that might lead them to the killer. But as the days turn into weeks, and the weeks into months, the trail grows cold, like a dying ember that flickers and dies. The killer seems to be always one step ahead, leaving behind a haunting question: what's the next move for this ruthless predator? Will he strike again, and if so, where? The community holds its breath, waiting for the next shoe to drop, as the investigation grinds on, a complex web of dead ends and false leads, with no clear direction. As the body count rises, investigators are forced to consider a chilling possibility, that the Oakland County child killer may not be acting alone. The mind of one man, John Norman Collins, comes under scrutiny. Collins, a suspect in the murder of a young woman, has already been on the radar of local authorities. Now, detectives are poring over the evidence, searching for any connection between Collins and the string of child murders that has left Oakland County gripped with fear. A former student at Michigan State University, Collins has been linked to the murder of a young woman in 1971. The modus operandi is different, but the nagging doubt remains: could this be the break in the case? Investigators are meticulously re-examining Collins' alibis, scouring for any mention of him in the testimonies of witnesses, and painstakingly following up on every lead. But as they dig deeper, they hit a brick wall. No concrete evidence ties Collins directly to the murders of the young children. Still, the authorities can't shake off the feeling that Collins might hold the key to unraveling the mystery. They press on, fueled by the urgency of solving the case before another child becomes a victim. The investigation into Collins is a complex web of theories and hunches. One thing is certain: if Collins is connected to these heinous crimes, the evidence is well hidden. And as detectives continue to probe, one question continues to haunt them: what if Collins is not working alone?
Stop for a moment. Based on what you've just heard, what do you think really happened here? Drop your theory in the comments below. We read every single one.
As the investigation into the Oakland County child murders continued, a growing chorus of experts began to question the police theory of a serial killer on the loose. Some argued that the murders may not be linked, that the killer could have been someone close to the victims, perhaps even a family member or a neighbor. This alternative narrative sparked a counter-investigation, with experts poring over the evidence, searching for inconsistencies and potential missteps by the police. Dr. Dorothy Otno Lewis, a renowned psychiatrist, was one of the experts who challenged the police theory. She believed that the killer was likely someone who knew the victims, someone who had a personal connection to them. Her theory was based on the fact that the victims all knew each other, and that their killings seemed to have been carried out with a level of precision that suggested a more calculated approach. The idea that the killer may have been someone close to the victims sent shockwaves through the community, with many residents wondering if they had unknowingly harbored a monster. As the experts' opinions fueled the debate, the police were forced to re-examine their own investigation, to consider the possibility that they may have overlooked crucial evidence or missed a vital lead. But as the counter-investigation gained momentum, one question continued to haunt the community: if not John Norman Collins, then who? The search for answers continued, with experts and investigators alike following every lead, every tip, every shred of evidence. And yet, as the years went by, the killer remained at large, leaving behind only the haunting memories of the victims and their families. The case was a complex web of theories and counter-theories, with no clear resolution in sight. As the investigation dragged on, the community was left to wonder: would they ever find justice for the victims, or would the killer remain forever hidden in the shadows? The passage of time didn't dull the pain of the families, but it did bring about a revolution in investigative techniques. DNA evidence, once a nascent field, had matured into a powerful tool. Authorities began re-examining the case files, wondering if the killer might have left behind a genetic fingerprint. The Oakland County child killer case was about to get a second look, thanks to technological advancements. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, DNA profiling became more sophisticated and accessible. Investigators started retesting evidence, searching for a match in a rapidly expanding database. They scoured old evidence, re-examining clothing, hair samples, and other potential DNA sources. Each new test brought hope that the killer might be identified, but results were slow to materialize. The families of the victims held on to hope, buoyed by the prospect that technology might finally uncover the truth. As DNA databases grew, so did the anticipation of a breakthrough. With each passing year, the likelihood of capturing the killer seemed to diminish, yet investigators persisted. They followed every lead, every hint of a possible suspect. But then, another body was discovered. The murders continued, the killer seemingly always one step ahead. And then, silence. The crimes stopped as suddenly as they began. But investigators didn't stop. They continued to follow up on tips, to re-examine evidence. And then, a new lead emerged. A potential suspect, with a DNA profile that matched. But was it enough? The wait was agonizing. And then, the results came back. Not a match. The killer remained at large. But investigators refused to give up. They continued to probe, to test, to follow every lead. And the families waited, and wondered, would they ever find out who was responsible for the brutal murders of their loved ones? As the bodies of young victims continued to turn up in Oakland County, the community began to unravel. Fear and mistrust spread like wildfire, with parents keeping a watchful eye on their children, afraid to let them out of their sight. The once peaceful neighborhoods, where kids rode their bikes until the streetlights came on, were now a battleground. The sense of safety that residents once took for granted was shattered, replaced by a growing sense of unease. The police were working around the clock, but the killer seemed always one step ahead. The lack of progress in solving the case only fueled the anxiety, with many wondering if the authorities were competent to catch the culprit. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, the community's frustration grew. Residents began to organize their own searches, scouring the woods and fields, hoping to find some clue that the police might have missed. The local media was filled with stories of the murders, and speculation about the killer's identity. But with each new lead, the hopes of a breakthrough were dashed. The investigation was a complex web of theories and suspects, but one thing was certain, the people of Oakland County were living in terror. And as the killer continued to evade capture, one question on everyone's mind was, who would be next? The community was on edge, waiting with bated breath for the next shoe to drop. But as the darkness closed in, one thing was clear. The Oakland County child killer was a master of manipulation, always staying one step ahead of his pursuers. And as the death toll mounted, the question remained, would he strike again? In the desperate, relentless pursuit of a killer who seemed to vanish into thin air, every phone call, every tip, every whispered rumor held the potential for a breakthrough. But within this maelstrom of information, another insidious challenge began to emerge, one that would further muddy the waters and bleed the investigation of precious time and resources, the specter of false confessions and the deliberate art of misdirection. Imagine the scene, a weary detective, poring over stacks of reports, only to find another individual claiming responsibility, often with details so vague or contradictory they screamed fabrication. Some were attention seekers, others mentally vulnerable, some coerced by the sheer pressure of an interrogation room. Each false confession, however quickly debunked, demanded manpower, diverted focus, and offered a cruel, fleeting hope to the grieving families. It wasn't just wasted effort, it was a psychological drain, a constant battle against the human tendency to seek easy answers where none existed. The investigation, already struggling with a killer leaving few clues, now had to contend with a labyrinth of self-incrimination, some genuine, most utterly baseless. Beyond false confessions, the landscape was littered with misdirection, red herrings, planted evidence, or simply well-intentioned but mistaken eyewitness accounts that sent officers down fruitless paths. Each misstep, each chase after a ghost, allowed the true perpetrator to recede further into the shadows, emboldened by the chaos they observed. The Oakland County child killer case became a crucible where the true cost of such diversions was laid bare, a stark lesson in how easily a complex investigation can be derailed. But how many of these dead ends were innocent mistakes, and how many were orchestrated to deliberately lead law enforcement astray, creating a smokescreen behind which the real killer could hide? Decades have now passed since the terror gripped Oakland County, yet the chilling specter of the child killer refuses to fade. The case, officially designated a cold case, is anything but dormant in the hearts and minds of those committed to justice. Regularly, task forces are reassembled, and dedicated detectives, often generations removed from the original investigators, meticulously pore over every scrap of evidence, every faded police report, every archived witness statement. This isn't just a dusty file on a shelf, it's a living, breathing testament to an enduring mystery, continuously reviewed with fresh eyes and the benefit of evolving forensic science. The painstaking process of cold case review involves more than just rereading. It means digitalizing thousands of documents, cross-referencing databases that didn't exist in the 70s, and applying advanced analytical techniques to seemingly insignificant details. Every phone call, every tip, no matter how old or seemingly outlandish, is reevaluated, looking for the one crucial thread that might have been missed amidst the chaos of the initial investigation. New leads emerge not from sudden revelations, but often from this relentless, methodical sifting through the past, from re-interviewing aging witnesses whose memories might now offer a clearer perspective, or from the sheer persistence of those who refuse to let these children be forgotten. Each potential breakthrough, each newly identified person of interest, reignites a flicker of hope. Yet, the path to closure is fraught with challenges. Records are incomplete, witnesses have passed away, and memories dim with time. Still, the Oakland County child killer investigation remains an open wound, and an active pursuit. The commitment to finding answers endures, a silent promise to the victims and their families that the search for truth is far from over. Who else might hold a piece of this agonizing puzzle, buried beneath decades of silence? The shadow of the Oakland County child killer extends far beyond the streets of Michigan, a chilling testament to a darkness that reshaped the very landscape of American law enforcement and public consciousness. This unsolved case, a gaping wound in the fabric of justice, forced a brutal reckoning with how child abductions and serial killings were investigated. Before OCCK, interagency cooperation was often an anomaly. After, multi-jurisdictional task forces became the standard, recognizing that evil knows no county lines. The desperate hunt for the killer underscored the critical need for central databases and streamlined communication, laying groundwork for national missing persons registries and sophisticated intelligence sharing that we take for granted today. It was a crucible for forensic science too. While DNA evidence was decades away, the meticulous, if sometimes chaotic, evidence collection in the OCCK case emphasized the long-term value of preserving even the smallest trace, anticipating future technological leaps that might finally break the silence. Psychologists and profilers, once on the fringes, found their methods increasingly integrated into active investigations, striving to understand the predator lurking in the shadows. But the legacy isn't confined to police procedure. For an entire generation of parents, the Oakland County child killer shattered an idyllic sense of security. It ignited a nationwide conversation about child safety, leading to heightened vigilance, stranger danger education, and the widespread adoption of identification programs. The case became a benchmark for true crime, a grim blueprint for the enduring fascination with unsolved mysteries that continues to fuel documentaries, podcasts, and books, each new telling a desperate attempt to coax answers from the silence. Yet, despite decades of relentless effort, the technological advances, the countless leads pursued and exhausted, the fundamental question remains: who was the Oakland County child killer, and why, after all this time, do they continue to elude justice? Decades have passed since the last child vanished from Oakland County, yet the shadows cast by those unsolved murders stretch long, far beyond the immediate grief of the families. The Oakland County child killer case isn't merely a chapter in Michigan's history, it's a profound, chilling narrative that speaks to the very complexities of justice denied. It exposes the limitations of investigative techniques in an era before DNA databases and rapid information sharing, revealing how crucial early leads can vanish, how evidence can degrade, and how the absence of a single, definitive answer can fracture a community's sense of safety for generations. This enduring mystery forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the nature of cold cases. It teaches us that time, while it may heal some wounds, often deepens the enigmas surrounding others. We witness the agonizing dance between fading memories and the desperate hope for new insights, the evolution of forensic science constantly battling the erosion of physical evidence. The OCCK case became a crucible for law enforcement, pushing boundaries, highlighting the critical need for interagency cooperation, and for a more victim-centric approach to such heinous crimes. It's a testament to the perseverance of dedicated detectives and the unyielding resolve of families, forever seeking a name, a face, a motive behind the horror that shattered their lives. But beyond the technicalities, this case reveals something more fundamental about human experience, the gnawing question of why that lingers when evil goes unpunished. It underscores the psychological toll on investigators, the constant reevaluation of theories, the weight of public expectation. The Oakland County child killer remains an open wound, a symbol of the ultimate complexity of an unsolved murder. It asks us, with haunting clarity, what justice truly means when the perpetrators walk free, and what lessons humanity must continue to learn from the shadows, to prevent such darkness from ever consuming our children again. What does it truly take to finally bring light to such an enduring night?
Before you go, if this story held your attention all the way to the end, hit the like button. It takes 1 second, and for a channel like ours, it genuinely makes a difference. Subscribe so you don't miss what we uncover next. Every week, another case the world couldn't close. And here's the part we mean most, the next story we dig into could come from you. Drop in the comments which unsolved mystery, disappearance, or disaster you want us to investigate. We read every single suggestion. The cases that stay with you are the ones we bring to life,